Episode 12, The Rising Threat. The silence that followed Eli and Evelyn's escape from the Silent Circle was charged with an ominous tension. As they stood amidst the townsfolk gathered in the center of Black Hollow, their breath still heavy from the chase, they sensed that the battle with the Silent Circle was far from over. They had escaped with their lives, but the threat now felt closer, darker, and more insidious. The townspeople gathered around them, their faces confusing and concerned. Most of them had heard the rumors about Eli and Evelyn's involvement with the curse and had whispered stories of strange occurrences since the curse's supposed banishment. For years, these secrets had lived as little more than ghost stories. However, the encounter with the Silent Circle brings a grim reality to Black Hollow's hidden lore. As Eli caught his breath, an older man with a cane approached him, leaning heavily as he surveyed Eli's haggard appearance. "You look like you've seen a ghost, son," the man said with a thin smile, his voice carrying a curious note. Eli straightened, exchanging a glance with Evelyn before addressing the crowd. "You all need to know the truth," he began, his voice steady but carrying a weight of urgency. "This town has been cursed for generations, but it wasn't random. It was controlled, manipulated, by a group called the Silent Circle." A murmur spread through the crowd as Eli spoke. Some faces reflected disbelief, while others showed a glimmer of realization, as though they had suspected this truth all along. "The Silent Circle believes they're protecting Black Hollow," Eli continued. "But they're preserving the curse, ensuring its remnants linger, and that Black Hollow stays bound to a darkness it doesn't deserve." Evelyn stepped forward, her voice resonating with clarity. "They tried to silence us, to stop us from bringing the truth to light. But they can't hide anymore. They're part of this town's suffering, and they'll continue to be unless we stand against them." The crowd stirred their whispered questions, building into anxious conversations. Several people nodded, looking at one another as if a long-sought truth was finally sinking in. Still, others remained skeptical, casting doubtful glances at the two as they processed the weight of what they'd just heard. From within the crowd, a woman spoke up, her voice carrying a mixture of fear and anger. "If this circle is real, how do we know they'll leave us alone? They've kept their secrets for so long, who's to say they won't do worse now that they've been exposed?" Eli clenched his jaw, fully aware that their escape had made them targets. "We can't be sure. But we have to believe that we're stronger together than we are alone." A younger man raised his hand, voice shaking. "So, what are we supposed to do? How do we stand against a group that's been here for generations, living in shadows?" Evelyn's gaze swept over the crowd, her tone firm. "We fight them with the truth. We bring their secrets to light. If we expose what they've done, if we rally the town against them, they won't have anywhere to hide." That night, Eli and Evelyn prepared for what would be their most dangerous mission yet, uncovering the Circle's hidden history and exposing their influence over Black Hollow. They knew it wouldn't be easy. The Circle's power was embedded in the town's oldest institutions, places of trust and authority, hidden in plain sight. As they pored over the documents and clues they had collected over the past few weeks, Evelyn came across an old map of the town. Faded and worn, it depicted Black Hollow as it had been centuries ago, when the founders had settled and drawn up the first boundaries. The map included the old chapel where they had encountered the Circle and, intriguingly, marked a series of underground tunnels that stretched beneath the town. The tunnels appeared to connect significant locations: the chapel, the town hall, and the founders' estate on the outskirts of Black Hollow. Eli's eyes widened as he examined the map. "This is it. This is how they've moved through Black Hollow without being seen. These tunnels must be how they've stayed hidden all this time." They decided to start their search at the founder's estate, a sprawling yet decrepit mansion that had long been abandoned. Though no one dared enter it, claiming it was haunted, Eli and Evelyn knew the place held secrets vital to their cause. If the Circle was using the tunnels, perhaps they could find a way to expose them or uncover documents that might incriminate the members. The next night, they set off for the estate under the cover of darkness. The air was thick with anticipation, each step heightening their awareness of the risk they were taking. As they neared the mansion, a sense of foreboding settled over them. The place was shrouded in ivy and decay, its windows dark and hollow like empty eyes. They carefully made their way inside, navigating the dusty corridors with flashlights. The floor creaked beneath them, echoing ominously through the empty rooms. Evelyn led the way, checking the map as they followed its paths to locate the entrance to the tunnels. Finally, they arrived in a large parlor room where a grand fireplace dominated one wall. Evelyn scanned the floor, searching for any unusual markings or openings. Her light caught a faint line in the stone, a nearly invisible crack in the floorboards, just in front of the fireplace. "Here," she whispered, crouching down to inspect it. With a little effort, they pried open the floorboards, revealing a stone staircase descending into the darkness. They exchanged a glance, a mixture of determination and trepidation, before descending into the depths of Black Hollow. The tunnel walls were damp, covered in moss and the faint markings of old carvings. They followed the narrow, winding passage, each step echoing eerily around them. The air grew colder the deeper they went, and a feeling of oppression settled over them as they moved further from the surface. As they reached a fork in the tunnel, a sound made them freeze. Footsteps echoed down the corridor ahead, steady and unhurried, as though someone knew exactly where they were going. Eli held his breath, gesturing for Evelyn to stay back as he peered around the corner. To his horror, he spotted a line of cloaked figures moving down the adjacent corridor, their footsteps purposeful as they headed toward what appeared to be a larger chamber. Eli ducked back, motioning for Evelyn to remain silent. They waited in tense silence until the figures had passed, their footsteps fading into the darkness. When the coast was clear, they continued forward, carefully making their way toward the chamber the circle had entered. As they neared, they could make out a low hum, a chant in an ancient language that sent shivers down their spines. Peering into the room, they saw the circle gathered around a massive stone pedestal at the center of the chamber, an ancient tome open before them. The room was lit by flickering candles, their glow casting unsettling shadows on the walls. Evelyn's eyes narrowed as she noticed something else, an intricate symbol carved into the floor surrounding the pedestal, a series of interlocking circles and triangles that pulsed faintly as if holding some form of latent power. "That's the symbol we saw at the chapel," Eli whispered. "It must be part of their ritual." Evelyn nodded, her face pale as she took in the scene. "They're not just guarding the curse. They're trying to summon something, to call forth what remains of the shadow." The chanting grew louder, and the air seemed to vibrate with an unseen force. Eli felt a pressure building in his chest, making it difficult to breathe as the ritual intensified. The circle's leader, the same man who had confronted them, raised his hands above the tome, his voice echoing through the chamber. "We must stop them," Evelyn hissed. "If they complete this ritual, they could unleash whatever remnants of the curse are left." But before they could act, one of the circle members looked up, catching a glimpse of movement at the entrance. In an instant, the chanting ceased, and all eyes turned toward them, expressions twisted in anger and surprise. The leader's gaze fixed on Eli and Evelyn, his face contorting with fury. "You dare to interfere again?" he hissed, his voice echoing with a power that made Eli's skin crawl. "You will not leave here alive." The circle members advanced, moving with unnatural speed as they closed in around them. Eli and Evelyn braced themselves, grabbing the nearest objects, old, rusted tools that had been left behind in the tunnel, to defend themselves. Amid the struggle, Evelyn spotted an opportunity. The tome lay open on the pedestal, its pages filled with the ritual's incantations. She darted forward, shoving one of the circle members aside and grabbing the book, tearing several pages from it in a desperate attempt to break the ritual. The effect was immediate. The symbol on the floor flickered, its glow fading as the power it held was disrupted. The leader let out a furious shout, lunging toward her, but Eli intercepted him, knocking him back with a fierce blow. The chamber began to tremble, stones dislodging from the walls as the energy of the interrupted ritual sought release. Eli grabbed Evelyn's hand, and together they bolted back through the tunnels as the chamber collapsed behind them, the silent circle's furious shouts echoing in their ears. They emerged into the night, their breaths ragged, as the ground shook beneath them. The old mansion trembled, as if in response to the severed connection between the silent circle and the curse it had guarded for so long. For now, they had disrupted the circle's plans, but they knew this was only the beginning. The circle would not forgive such an affront, and their retaliation would be swift and merciless. But Eli and Evelyn were ready to face them, determined to end the curse once and for all, no matter the cost. End of episode 12.